Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's GSU Book Club meeting. My name is Cheryl Johnson Ransaw, and I am the director of EDWS, hosting today's session, and I'm delighted to be joined by two colleagues from the Office of Diversity Education Planning, John Day and Lindell Robinson, who will be today's facilitator. Today, we are excited to offer a book discussion and presentation on The Well-Lived Life, a 103-year-old doctor's 6 Secrets to Health and Happiness at Every Age by Gladys McGarry, medical doctor. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. We will be recording today's session. And we invite you to certainly make use of the chat box if you have any questions or concerns. I hope that you won't have any technical challenges. We had some in the beginning and we appreciate your patience with us, but I hope that things will go smoothly from this point on. We will be offering some questions for you to consider responding, and certainly today is not a matter of you having to feel pressured if you've not read the book, because we welcome the opportunity to present it to you. Just a couple of book club ground rules. We invite everyone to just feel comfortable and be an active listener as we present today's highlights of the book. And we ask that you focus on respectful and productive conversation. So certainly we want to engage everyone to feel comfortable with responding to questions or raising questions, responding to other comments, but we respect that everyone comes with their own beliefs and perspectives, and we want to be courteous about that. If you have any concerns or a need for clarification on anything that is mentioned that might be confusing or troubling, certainly we invite you to speak up on that as well. And if there aren't any questions at the start of our presentation, we will move on to the next slide, and I'm happy to introduce Lindell Robinson, who will be the facilitator for today.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Hopefully everyone can, excuse me, hopefully everyone can hear me. My name is Lindell Robinson, and I look forward to sharing just a small overview of this wonderful book by Dr. Gladys McGarry. So first, let's start with a little bit about Dr. McGarry. She is affectionately known as Dr. Gladys. She's a board certified. She is board certified in both holistic and integrated medicine. So she holds an MD and an MDH. She held a family practice for more than 60 years. She is the co-founder of the American Holistic Medical Association, which I believe she co-founded with her husband. And she is also the past president. She is the co-founder of the Academy of Parapsychology and Medicine, and she was the first to utilize acupuncture in the US and has trained many other physicians on how to use it. Dr. Gladys just recently went over the Rainbow Bridge, as some say. She passed on September 28th, 2024, but she leaves a great legacy in holistic medicine, and she is internationally recognized as the mother of holistic medicine. Dr. McGarry, or Dr. Gladys, believed a little differently about medicine. And in the introduction to the book, and maybe in the first chapters, she discusses how she saw medicine and how going through the academic structure of medical school almost took the joy out of medicine and her passion for medicine. So the popular belief about medicine or the role of medicine is that medical intervention is to promote physical well-being through putting a stop to whatever ails us. It is to diagnose and kill disease to prolong life for the sake of life. That's an argument that some already have, as some say it's quality of life and not just life. So we have those different arguments happening, but overall, it's let's keep them alive and stay alive as long as we can. Dr. Gladys's philosophy, however, is that there is a greater aim to life in itself and to medicine. So the greater aim is to create a suitably healthy environment, that being our physical body, in which the soul can fulfill its purpose. So again, we're alive for a reason. True health is about finding out who we are, paying attention to how we were called to grow and change, and listening to what makes our heart sing. And that's in her own words. She believes that just as the cells in our body work together to sustain life, all living things work together to create the universe we live in. Each of us is unique and essential. It is also her belief that love is essential to healing, and that while doctors play a role in the healing process, it is the patient who heals themselves. I wanted to share this video. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. When we were, the technical difficulties we were having earlier was that we could not hear the video clearly. So I'm going to attempt to play it. Please let us know in the chat if it's coming through or not. If it's not, then I will share the link and you can go to it at your leisure, and I will just continue with the presentation.
Hello, I'm Dr. Gladys McGarry. I'm so delighted to be able to talk to you and tell you how important it is for me at 100.
One moment. I apologize. Trying to see if I can turn it up.
To be able to share the amazing experiences I've had for all these years. And this book is The Well-Lived Life. I hope that you enjoy it, but more than that, I hope that you are able to feel with me the importance of life as it is, the amazing process that we have as human beings to be alive at this time. I thank you for reading and looking at this concept as something that will help you in the way you live your lives and continue to enjoy the process of life itself. Hello.
So Dr. Gladys speaks about the process of life. What is so great about the way that she presents, I'm sorry, this book is that in addition to anecdote, anecdote using anecdotes and various stories from her own life, she also gives you kind of a practice, something to meditate on, some type of takeaway at the end. Um, why? Because life is a process, and in a process, we are always in a state of doing. Something is working. So there's nothing that is stagnant if you are in a process. So when we find ourselves stagnant at some points, then that means that we have work to do in order to break up whatever is blocking us so that we can again begin moving through the process of life. So the very first secret is that we must know that we are here for a reason. You'll hear about stories where someone has been married for 50 years, and as soon as one spouse dies, the other spouse dies not soon after. And one part of that is the thought that they lost whom they were living for or what was keeping them moving. So we have to realize that we're here for a reason. So when we feel that we are losing that zest for life, we have to reevaluate and reassess where we are, who we are, and what, as she calls it, juice. What is our juice? And how do we get that juice moving again in our life? She equates finding your juice to passion, to purpose. And she also talks about how juice is your energy, similar to how in Eastern medicine, in Eastern beliefs, you hear about chi, and that being your life force. Secret number 2, all life needs to move. The practice of letting go. In this section, she discusses how easy it is for us to get those blockages. We wind up building up dams that keep the water, the life force from moving. And in order to get rid of that blockage, think of like a beaver dam. Sometimes when people are working to pull apart beaver dams that are built near culverts, they pull and they pull at different places, but once they kind of see where the water starts trickling around, they know where to put that force in order to break it on apart so that the water can flow freely. And that's what she advises us to do in our life. If something does not serve you, then you have to let it go. If something does not serve where you are in life and is not serving the other people around you, whether that's some type of sadness, some type of anger, so it can be emotional blockages. Sometimes it's physical barriers, like things actually in our life. So if you're at a standstill in your career and you're trying to figure out what's next, sometimes you have to go to the bigger picture and again remember what your juice is, what got you so interested in the job that you have in the first place. What is it that got you so interested in the community work that you may do in the first place, and revitalize that within yourself so that you can let go of whatever your blockage is, or break it up and move it out of the way. So for some people, grief can be a blockage, because grief is something that we should be flowing through. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean that it doesn't hit us in waves, but it's moving. Whereas if we allow grief to stay, in other words, we repress our feelings and we don't allow it to come out, then that grief becomes the seeds of depression, because depression doesn't move. Depression is a place of I don't know if stagnicity is a word, but it's a place of blockage. Whereas with our grief, we should be moving from the sadness part into the remembering the joy of the person's life, or as some people would say, don't be sad because it's over, be glad that it happened. So we have to make that shift, even in our grief, to let go. In the book, she mentions a phrase that she learned in India. She grew up in India in her somewhat formative years. I believe she moved to the US when she was 9. Her parents were US missionaries who were doctors in India for a while. So that's where she grew up originally. And her mother would use a phrase that means it doesn't matter. And she would hold her hands up and then let them fall and say, basically, it doesn't matter. And we have to find that within ourselves and practice letting go so that we can move on and move forward in our process of life. Love is the most powerful medicine. We have to practice loving ourselves into our healthy place. Over the years, I've heard the phrase loving someone else to their healthy place. But she says, start with you. We have to love ourselves to our healthiest place. And then through that love, then we are able to help others to heal. But we cannot do these things if we do not know what our juice is, are willing to let go of what's not serving in our lives anymore, and loving who we are. Sometimes what's blocking us is not knowing, or not, I won't even say not knowing, but not putting our juice to work. So if you have a passion to help people and you find yourself in a job where you're not seeing an impact on people that you can feel, then you may start to doubt yourself. You may lose some self-confidence and all of those type of things because you don't feel fulfilled. But loving ourselves is one of the things that helps us to get past that feeling. It may mean doing a new job, or it may simply mean looking at the job you're doing in a new light. For example, if you have a position where, as when I first came to Georgia State in 2003, my job was labeled back office. So if you have a quote unquote back office job where you're not seeing the faces, especially considering we're on a college campus, if you don't see the students on a regular basis, or you're not seeing and interacting or understanding how what you do interacts with faculty or staff or students on a regular basis, then it may be just a matter of looking at what you do again and seeing how it fits in to the overall picture. One of the things that Dr. Gladys talks about is that we're all jigsaw pieces. And this simply means that we're all a part of an interwoven fabric, and that goes into secret 4. You are never truly alone. Practice weaving together the fabric of life. As a jigsaw puzzle, if you think about your puzzles, each piece fits in a specific spot. We don't get a piece and then take scissors to it to cut it to make it fit somewhere. In the way that it is uniquely shaped, it fits, and we just have to find the fit. And that's what we have to look at for our jobs. For example, in HR, unless they're student workers, we might not see them. We may not see the students often, but the students are our main purpose for being at GSU. So how does what we do in HR, for example, fit in to serving the students and the people? Well, in order, if my job, for example, was in human capital management, then I would, which is a lot of data involved, then I would have to look at my job as seeing I'm helping all of the student workers to get the employment they need, putting in their paperwork, and once they have that employment, looking at what they're going to get. I play one small part in it. I didn't hire them. I'm just inputting their paperwork. But by getting that information into the system promptly and accurately, that's them one step closer to a position where they're getting paid and they're getting experience. For our staff and our faculty, it's the same. Once they're in the system, once I've done my part, that's one less thing for them to have to worry about. And them getting paid is what affects their livelihood. And it also affects the way that they interact on campus. If they know that they are taken care of and their paperwork is done, then they're not stressed about whether or not they're going to receive their paycheck or their benefits. They know it's taken care of, and they can focus on the more important things in life and in their job. And so that's just one way of rethinking or changing your perspective on your job, even if you're not necessarily a people-facing position. Another point that she makes is that everything is your teacher. And so we have to practice finding the lesson. I think that kind of speaks for itself. So even when we are in a difficult circumstance, we must be able to find the lesson that we need to get from this. And sometimes we have to recognize that the lesson may not necessarily be for ourselves, but so that we can assist someone else down the line. So sometimes we say, why me? But sometimes that simply is you because 1, you can handle it, and 2, it will assist you in serving others, which may be a part of your juice. For Dr. Gladys, she gives us a story of how she found her juice. She tells us that when she was helping, when her parents were medical missionaries in India, that she would assist her mother by getting different supplies that she may have needed. Um, Her mother would allow her to assist if they were just doing simple first aid or different things like that, or she would just watch her parents, and she would not only see what her parents were doing for the people, but what physically, but what it did for the people psychologically and emotionally. She saw the love and respect that the people had for her parents because of what they were doing in the medical field. And again, her parents also looked at medicine holistically and not just as intervening in a physical malady, but also the emotional and psychological needs of the patient. And the last one is one that I love. Spend your energy wildly. Practice embracing your life. So often we hear spend your energy wisely, which yes, we must be wise. We must quote unquote manage our time, but we also cannot ignore living life. So many of us are alive. We get up and do the day-to-day things, but are we living life? And that's something that Dr. Gladys encouraged everyone to do, to embrace your life. Wherever you are in life in this moment, be present. Whatever you may be going through, find the lesson. Whatever you may be up against, practice loving yourself through it so that you don't get stuck or stagnant in your life. Because no matter who you are, because you are here, because you are living, you are a unique and essential part of the tapestry of life. And therefore, you must find your juice, use your juice, and embrace your life, whatever that looks like for you. So one of the quotes from Dr. Gladys, and this is what she said the whole book is about. If to sum it up in one sentence, it would be, to be truly alive, we must find the life force within ourselves and direct our energy toward it. So your juice is that life force. As I said, Eastern philosophies call it chi. I'm sure that it has various other names in other indigenous cultures as well. But what I would love for you to think about even now is, what is your juice? You don't have to answer it in the chat unless you would like, if you know. For me, and another thing that she points out is sometimes your juice is a lot of things. It's not necessarily just one thing. So your juice is what gets you going. Your juice is where your passion lies. Your juice is where you can find purpose. For Dr. Gladys, it was medicine, but it wasn't just medicine. It was also her family. Being a mother and a wife was a source of juice for her. It's what gave her energy. So she had 4 children. So again, think about it. She is a doctor at a time when women are not doctors. She is pushing through a practice in an area where it's her and her husband and maybe 4 other doctors that are servicing an entire area of people. And then she has 4 little ones at home. And still she had energy because she would pour her energy into work. So her love for her children would fuel her while she was at work. And when she was home, she, knowing that she was going to have to go back to work, she would soak up all the love from her children and giving to her children when she was at home so that she could be fueled for the next day. So she was using both her work passion and her home passion to keep her energized. And that's something that I think we all need to learn how to do. We talk about work-life balance, but sometimes it's not even just quote unquote work-life balance. It's balancing things in our mind, and that's letting go because we're holding on to so much. We have to let go of what's not serving us and not beat ourselves up about it. That's the part of loving yourself to your healing or loving yourself to your healthy place. The world will beat up on us enough. We don't have to beat up on ourselves. We just have to figure out what's not serving us and move forward in that. Thank you for sharing, Pamela. Pamela says that her faith and trust in God is her juice. Part of my juice is service. So serving others is a part of my juice, as well as fostering good relationships. So when I'm able to foster good relationship with people, or I'm able to help people to reconcile and foster their own good relationships, I feel energized. When I'm able to serve people in whatever capacity that it is in, whether it's my administrative skills, whether it is, again, my somewhat conflict mediator, not professionally, skills, because I'm the one that a lot of my friends call upon to be a peacemaker or a translator, as I say. That's a part of my juice. So we have to think about what our juice is, what gets us going, what keeps us energized, so that we can share the best of who we are with the world. And that's the way that we fit into that jigsaw puzzle. So these are 2 questions that I want you to think about as we're drawing toward the end. And if there's any questions that you have or any comments that you would like to share, please put those in the chat as well. But what do you think about the author's stated reason for writing the book, which again is she wants everybody pretty much to recognize that they have their life force, and then direct their energy to that thing. Let me go back and get that again. To truly be alive, we must find the life force within ourselves and direct our energy toward it. And then also think about where you are right now. Do you feel engaged? Are you an active participant or disengaged, a passive participant in the process of life? Because again, she wants us to enjoy the process of life. She wants us to move through the phases of life that we're being processed through. But sometimes we become passive participants, and we feel that things are happening to us instead of us acting upon things. So thinking about whether or not you're actively engaged and participating in your life, or you're disengaged and life is just happening to you. If you recognize that you are right now in the disengaged sector, I feel this is a great book for you to read. It's set up almost, again, it's anecdotes of what she has experienced in her life, but definitely toward the middle and at the end of each chapter, she gives you somewhat of a practice, but definitely toward the middle, she talks about setting boundaries and other things that can help us to get through the process of life, but not just get through it, to go through it with joy. One of my life's quotes is, when I face problems, and I'm still not there yet, but when I face problems, it is my desire to go through with grace and not like a gorilla in a tutu. So we have to give ourselves grace when we're disengaged, but we also have to re-engage and shift the mindset that life is happening to us and become that active participant and act on things. Because again, life is moving. And so we have to make a conscious decision to keep moving. We have 10 minutes or 9 minutes. Does anyone have any questions or comments that they would like to share about the author, about the topic? Thank you, Pamela. Pamela has started reading the book and she's enjoying it so far. Wonderful. I'm so glad to hear it. I've actually been reading it on Kindle and I have the audiobook, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the audiobook because some excerpts of it are in the author's own voice. And so you hear her, just like the clip that I showed, you hear her words from her lips. So it's very, very enjoyable listening to it on audio. It's a little daunting because on audio it tells you how long it's going to take to get through it, and it said 8 hours, but it's actually gone pretty quickly. And I found myself going back in the Kindle so that I can highlight things, because just listening to it is almost a workbook. And I feel the need to go back and highlight different things so that I can come back to it. If there are no other questions or comments, then I'd like to turn it back over to our host, Cheryl, and thank you all for your time and your attention today. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you, Lindell. That was a great presentation and facilitation for today's book club. And I too have enjoyed reading the book. I appreciate the comments from our attendees today. I think every secret really offered to something very motivational, very inspiring. I did like the focus on self-love, and certainly as a part of our team and our focus on health and well-being, we promote healthy lifestyles and always talk about the practice of self-care and self-love, and recognizing that all of us have our work-life challenges that we maneuver, and certainly life can be stressful and full of unexpected stressors that we're facing, but it is critical for us to certainly focus on the practice of self-care and self-love, even more so when we are responsible for others in terms of caregiving and your personal family life, as well as on the job and having a lot of responsibilities. And so we want to take the time now to just recognize the importance of trying to take advantage of resources that are available to help support and promote healthy lifestyles. And certainly as a part of our EDWS offerings, we do have available health coaching, and our faculty and staff assistance service is available for support and consultations. And even beyond Georgia State, we also want to recognize the University System of Georgia resources, and our main referral source is the Accenture Health Employee Assistance Program that's available for all employees and family members at no cost. And we encourage people to check out their information in terms of the resources that are available on the website, or call to get more information as well. And this is a service that's available 24 hours, 7 days a week. And that's important to remember, because life can throw some curveballs any time of day. And if we're dealing with crises, that can happen any time of day. And so it's important to be able to know where you might go for some help. And lastly, but not least, certainly we want to remind everybody that we offer tobacco cessation as a program for people that are tobacco users. And one footnote that I noticed in the book as well talked about loneliness, and how there's been some studies done on loneliness and how that affects longevity. And there was a comparison made that people who are struggling with not having a support system, living in a vacuum, that can have a negative impact on the extent of their life as well as the quality of life. And they made a comparison to being lonely as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So that's a pretty powerful comparison when you talk about tobacco use. Certainly is the number one preventable killer in the US. And the fact that there's a comparison made about the seriousness of loneliness and how that impacts physical and emotional health, I think is noteworthy as well. So just a couple other tidbits to encourage people to check out our website as well for more information. We are wanting to offer to those of you who've attended today's meeting the thought of inviting you back for a follow-up session on this book selection. We appreciate you coming today, and really just want to take a quick poll if anybody wants to respond in the chat if you have any interest in perhaps us coordinating a lunch and learn, and offering an opportunity, as I said, to gather and continue a discussion and dialogue about this book. And invite you, if you have other suggestions for book selections, we welcome that as well. But before we go out on the winter break, we are thinking that perhaps in November, or certainly would be early December, to offer follow-up gathering. So please give that some thought. If you have any immediate responses, feel free to enter that in the chat. Also know that we will follow up with a short survey after today's meeting, and we invite your feedback on our offering. And again, it's an opportunity to give us suggestions if you have some ideas about other book selections that we might consider. Because today's session was recorded, we will post that on our YouTube page and make that available, and that link will be included in our follow-up to you today. So certainly you'll have an opportunity to check it out and to share it with others if you'd like. So this is our last call for any questions or comments before we wrap up today. Well, thank you again, all of you, for attending today's book club meeting. We hope it has been enjoyable and that there's some positive takeaways. And we welcome your feedback and close by saying just take good care, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.